Hey, Walter Sorrells back with more tips for the knife maker. Today, the easiest knife making project ever, bar none, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, this is about the simplest project I've ever done on YouTube. Maybe some of y'all will say it's moronically simple, but so what? Sometimes I do crazy complicated projects and people complain about that. So this time I'm showing you something incredibly simple. That doesn't mean you can't find some little useful nugget in it though. What I'm doing today is making a rack for hanging grinding belts on the wall of my new shop. You might say, hey, just drive some nails in the wall. Well, that's what I did in my old shop, but here I've got drywall and so that approach won't work. So I'm taking the opportunity to make a slightly less janky rack this time. I just moved into a new shop, hauled all my belts over here, and they've literally been sitting on my floor for 6 weeks while I did higher priority stuff to get the shop in operation. But the time has come to make a real rack. Temporarily, I've been using these little hooks. Now, obviously, they're not nearly enough for all my belts, and they're not ideal for hanging belts from in the first place. After I'm done, I can reserve the hooks for safety glasses, respirators, and that sort of thing. I'm going to be making the new one out of wooden pegs. I want them to be about 6 inches apart, which will give enough room for all the belts on each one to not bang into each other and knock each other off. And a wood peg is never going to impale a belt or snag on it or rip it up or anything like that. And that's about all the thinking that's gone into it. So here goes. I start by measuring the area behind my grinders. Then I'll cut a sufficient length of 1x4 to cover the space. I'm going to be using 1/2-inch dowel stock for the actual pegs, so I'll chop those into 3.5-inch lengths on my miter saw. I just set up an extremely primitive little work stop, and I just bump the stock into it, chop, bump, chop, and I've got evenly cut lengths really quickly. Then I'll head to the grinder and chamfer the edges. This will help the pegs go into the holes and keep from snagging little splinters on the belts. Now, mark the holes I'll be drilling for the pegs I'll hang my belts on. Next, I'll drill holes in the lumber using a 1/2-inch Forstner bit. I've set up a little jig, if you want to dignify scrap wood and a couple of welding clamps with that name, on my drill press. The idea is that by jacking up one side of the 1x4 and pressing it against the clamps, all the holes will cant at about 10 degrees so the belts won't fall off and the holes will be located at the same height on the backing board. Now with a little tight bond wood glue and some gentle persuasion with a mallet, I'll drive the pegs into the holes. After locating the studs on the walls, I'll screw in the 2 pieces that I've made. And that, folks, is that. I'll probably paint them at some point, maybe. So it's gone from this mess to this. Now, I know, again, super simple project, but look, if there's a message to this, it's that sometimes it's the simplest stuff that has the biggest impact. I've literally been stepping on this big wad of belts for weeks. Now I'm all organized, everything in this shop is getting easier. If you've been following the progress of my move to the new shop, I'll have an update on that in a few days. And then, believe it or not, I'll actually have some videos about making knives again. I started on a really cool K-Bar tribute knife at the end of last year and finally am getting a chance to get that finished up. So at long last, the owner of that blade will have his knife in hand. Look for that video in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.